Hey guys, welcome back to the Book and Beverage Review, where today we will be reviewing The Fall of Gondolin and also be talking about some interesting Lord of the Rings news, some candle news, and we are going to be drinking this vanilla caramel herbal tea by Bigelow with some honey from Nate's, and we will be trying this while I wear my Ring of Power. Thank you, thank you. Without further ado, let's get into our Tolkien tea time. Tolkien tea time. So cute. I love this tea. It has those vanilla caramel notes, but you are hit with that sweetness from the honey as well. It's a perfect combo. So now, let's get into our story. There's a lot that's going on in this book. Basically this follows the story of the fall of Gondolin and all the things leading up to it. I think it's good to recap. The Mandos had basically put a curse on the elves that said that because they killed their kin when they were trying to get them ships, they will always be subject to treachery, and treachery will be their downfall and destroy them. The Fall of Gondolin follows the story of how Gondolin is destroyed because of treachery. The story mostly follows Tuor, who is the son of Huor, who is slain in the Battle of Nernia Tharnoediad. And what happens is he is raised by elves, but then at some point becomes a thrall, like a slave, and he gains his freedom only to be led to the Western Sea, where Ulmo then kind of blesses him and tells him that he is going to go against the other Valar and kind of the curses put on them and going to try to help them and give them hope for the race of men and elves to be saved. And I didn't know Tuor was such a big character in this saga, but he really is. So he speaks to Ulmo himself, which is a really big deal. Even the elves know that's like, what just happened? So he ends up finding an elf in the woods called Voronwë. Voronwë knows that he must be from a noble house because he's really tall, he's pale, he's blonde. You know, those European fairy tale characteristics. But he also tells him that even if he was the biggest deal and like a prince or king amongst men, he still couldn't be allowed to go into the hidden city. He's been looking for the hidden kingdom for a long time, even before he got to Ulmo. And he then starts speaking, and it's said that he feels like someone else is speaking through his mouth, of course, Ulmo. And Voronwë is like blown away by all the things this guy knows and figures he must be a messenger of Ulmo. So he's let into the kingdom, and Turgon knows that he's sent by Ulmo, and everyone starts loving him. Everyone thinks he's a great guy, and especially his daughter Idril starts liking him. And this is the first of the marriages between the elves and men, and they get married, and they have a son named Arundel, who is of course the father of Elrond and Elros. I love Elrond. Maeglin, who is her first cousin, he is the son of the dark elf Eol. Dark elf because he's kind of strange and he's always in a dark mood or whatever. And his son Maeglin is first cousins with Idril, and he lusts after her. It's said that his lust for Idril and his hate for Tuor, because he's a human and he hated humans, led Maeglin all the easier to his foul treachery. What happens is Maeglin is captured by a bunch of orcs and taken to Morgoth, and Morgoth allows him to live only because Maeglin offers the way to Gondolin. And he tells them everything, like this little brat, he tells them everything. He tells them how thick the walls are, the lay of the land. He basically gives them a blueprint to take over Gondolin and destroy it, which is terrible. And then Morgoth makes himself beasts that can fly in the air, because up to that point they didn't have those. So he makes himself dragons that can fly, made of fire. And then his dragons, his Balrogs, and his orcs go raid Gondolin and destroy it. And Tuor and Idril do escape with a bunch of other elves who end up living in the forest thereafter, you know, running from Morgoth. But Maeglin doesn't really get any of the things that he was promised by Morgoth. He doesn't get the girl. He doesn't get to be an art captain. In fact, Tuor throws him from a high wall and he dies. So after all his treachery, nothing was really accomplished. But the curse of Mandos still stands. So that's kind of the story of the fall of Gondolin. This book basically has a lot going on in it. Thorondor, King of Eagles, his name is different sometimes throughout, and that's due to the fact that there are a lot of changes. There were a lot of changes to the fall of Gondolin that Tolkien wrote in his papers, and this is like 7 or 8, a bunch of versions of the fall of Gondolin. It's the same story retold over and over and over and over again, just different variations of it. And there's some I like better than others, but all of them create a whole, like a whole package. I did audiobook some of it, which I don't necessarily recommend the audiobook if you want a really in-depth analysis. It's definitely something that you need to actively read or actively listen to. It's not really a passive read. None of the Middle-earth saga is. But what I do think is that the coolest bit from this whole book was at the end, there was apparently a prophecy about the fate of Arda. So it's like, Frodo goes into the ship, what the hell happens after that? Well, apparently what happens is there will be a time of peace and beauty, and the Silmarils will be found, and Yavanna will take them, and she will break them open, and the light of Teliperion and Lorelin will be then used to create the trees anew, and a great light will come back into the world, and a time again of beauty and peace. And then all the dead elves will return from the halls of Mandos and live. It's not said what will happen to humans, though. What'll happen then is, after a while, Morgoth will be loosed, which is very reminiscent of the Christian story of how there would be 1,000 years of peace, but eventually the devil will be loosed for a little while. Morgoth will be slain by none other, this is my favorite part, Turin Turambar, who will be carrying his black sword and destroy Morgoth. If y'all know all the crap Morgoth did to Turin Turambar and the line of Húrin, you would know how satisfying that ending is. So I was so grateful I caught that bit in here because it was totally worth it. Yeah, I'm gonna take it part of the proper canon because I want to take it as part of the proper canon. I love it. Speaking of Christian, this honey, one of the reasons why it's my favorite honey is it has a scripture on it. It says, "Thy word is sweeter than honey," Psalms 19:103, right there. I love it so much. I love it. And it even says here on the back of the box, "I thank God for allowing us to serve you and your family." That's why I love Nate's Honey so much. They're such a good company. I mean, I don't know the backstory of, like, if they're, like, responsibly sourced or whatever. I just know that this company, yeah, I like the way they do their stuff. So this was a great book. Before we get into our ratings and our final thoughts, I wanted to talk about the lady, the wonderful lady who makes these candles. Her name is Ashley, and she told me that I inspired one of her new candles. And I do of course, my Tolkien Teatime series, which I don't know if anybody else likes it. I like making it, so I make it. And she said she said it inspired her to make an afternoon tea candle, of course, named after one of the Hobbit meals, because they eat 7 meals in a day. And I ordered one. And once I get it, what I'm deciding to do is I'm going to put my candles alight, and I'm going to read some of my favorite quotes from the 4 books of the Middle-earth saga I've already read. So I'm very excited for that video whenever it comes out. I don't know, that might be Sunday's video, next Tolkien Teatime, so we'll see. But again, thank you, Ashley, for doing that. I'm so excited. It's kind of cool that I inspired someone to create something. I just never, I mean, honestly, I don't know if I ever really expected anyone to watch my channel. I have 67 followers now, and I want to thank every single one of you. Yeah, thank you guys. My final thoughts are that this book is great. Lots of interesting stuff. Of course, it's a 5-star. Got to put that out there. But I might not recommend the Audible version. Only because, again, this is an active read. I audibled it. I enjoyed it. But if you really want to get into it, I'm still going to give the Audible version 5 stars, but I would still recommend the hard copy version over the Audible, but whatever. As for the tea, this is 5 stars. I love this tea. I actually found out about this tea because someone said if you have a chocolate craving, you can drink this tea and it will be a good substitute. I think that's kind of true, but I just like it on its own. And then for the Nate's honey, 5 stars. Very good honey. And as for the candles, 5 stars. They're good candles. And as for you, 5 stars. Because you guys are awesome. Mwah! Thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to sipping a beverage with you and getting into a news story soon. Take care.